Welcome back to another video, and in this video I'm going to explore the quaternity of I know and I don't know. Specifically, we're going to look at how saying I don't know to yourself unlocks the world of possibility in terms of knowledge and conscious expansion, and how saying I know puts a limit and a ceiling on what you can know about yourself and the world. So we're going to break the video up into 4 sections where we talk about the power of I don't know. I'm going to break down the quaternity of I know, I don't know, and the positive and negative qualities of being stupid and being smart. Then we're going to go into how hubris limits conscious expansion. What that means is hubris is the quality of kind of knowing the answer or believing that you know something when maybe you don't, and how hubris actually puts a ceiling on what you can know. Connecting to that idea, I'm going to go into number 3, why knowing the answer actually makes you look stupid when consciously you may think that you look smart. And part 4 is how hubris and knowing the answer or don't knowing can be a quality that you tie to your ego personality, meaning you associate your identity with being someone who's smart, who knows the answer, or somebody who's dumb and doesn't know the answer, and how either one of those can actually completely limit your conscious expansion and your growth of yourself. So let's get right into the video. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is explain the quaternity, and we're just going to break it down directly straight from the top. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Daniel Capello, and I specialize in depth psychology and just explaining essentially the way your own mind works. And so just as a basic understanding of what a quaternity is, this diagram here represents your mind. So if I draw a circle around it, now you're looking at your own mind. And so the quaternities that I will be exploring, and a quaternity just means like 4, so the 4 sides. The quaternities that I will be exploring are likely to be in your mind as well. However, the words might be slightly different. So for example, when I think about what the opposite of stupid is, the word that comes to my mind as the opposite of stupid is smart. However, for you, it might be, idiot and genius, or something along those lines. It may be a different word to symbolize or signify the same meaning. So yeah, you may be looking at these quaternities that I do in my videos, and if you can kind of derive the idea that I'm going for, and you might need to change the word here or here in order to get the same meaning of what the word actually means. Okay, so with that said, let's jump right into this example. So I know is going to be a positive quality, right? When you talk to somebody, most people, they're going to want to know the answer to a question if you ask them, especially if it's in their field. Like if you talk to an electrician and you ask him some question about electricity or lights or fittings or whatever, something associated to his job, he's supposed to know the answer, and so he'll want to know the answer and have a positive association to the quality of knowing. Or if you're in your own mind, then you'll say to yourself, I know the answer. So that's why we're going to put a positive up here. So growing up in school, when you're in class, if the teacher asks you a question and you put your hand up and you know the answer, that's a good thing. You may get a sticker or you may be rewarded. And if you're called on because you didn't put your hand up and the teacher wants to test your knowledge and you don't know, that's normally perceived as negative. Well, it is always perceived as negative. I'm kind of being a bit more nice than I maybe should. And again, the quality associated with these ideas is being smart. If you know the answer, then you're smart. And if you don't know the answer, then you're stupid. So this is the quaternity that we end up with, where you have these 2 paired opposites. So the green line between these 2 qualities represents the paired nature of the opposites, and the red line represents the paired nature of these opposites too. I just used green and red to symbolize the positive and negative association that normally occurs with these qualities. So what I'm referring to as the paired opposites is that if you think about somebody who knows the answer, then generally in your mind, you're going to think they're smart. And if you think about somebody who's smart, they know the answer. So if you think about this first, then this normally follows. And if you think about this first, this normally follows. So similarly, if somebody doesn't know the answer, they're stupid, and if somebody's stupid, they don't know the answer. So this is the quaternity that is created. So in somebody's mind who hasn't integrated these opposite qualities and understood this quaternity yet, this is going to be what their mind looks like. It's separated into these two paired opposites. And so what we end up with is this quaternity. So these two quadrants here don't exist in the mind of this individual. So which is mostly representative of everybody. Which means that somebody who doesn't know is smart, that this idea doesn't exist. So it's impossible. And the person wants to go in this direction. So, if you ask somebody, would you rather be smart and know the answer or stupid and not know the answer? Everybody's going to basically say that they want to be smart and know the answer. That's the positive quality in this scenario. And the opposite of that is that they don't want to be stupid and they don't want to not know the answer. So this is the quaternity we end up with, where these events are split and therefore they're not seen to exist in reality. So let's look at an example of that is, if you ask somebody with this quaternity in their mind, simply ask yourself, right? It's a great test to see if you've integrated this quaternity or not already. So, can you think of an example where somebody doesn't know the answer and is very smart? See if any ideas come to your mind where that they can fit in this quadrant. And just as an example, it'll be very easy for you to pick someone who can fit in this quadrant here. Think of somebody who doesn't know the answer and is stupid. It's going to be very easy for you to think of somebody. And think of somebody who knows the answer is smart, right? If I do it for myself, maybe I won't tell you who's comes up with in this quadrant because they may be watching the video. But, maybe in here is Elon Musk or Nikola Tesla or some genius, right? They know the answer, so they're smart, okay? And, maybe this will be one of my friends or somebody that I know, right? It's very easy to pick a person or a person is what normally comes to mind because they embody these qualities or you see those qualities in them. And then if you ask yourself who fits into these quadrants or where is an event or a situation in reality that fits into these quadrants, it's going to be much more difficult. Where somebody knows the answer and is stupid and somebody doesn't know the answer and is smart, right? So those are going to be more difficult if this quaternity is currently what exists in your mind. If you've already integrated the quaternity, then you'll be able to much more easily think of ideas that can fit into these two quadrants. So with that said, now the quaternity is on the board and you can see it. And I kind of just want to talk about what this means and how it can actually help you in your life. When you're looking at this quaternity, what you need to remember is the purpose of quaternities and doing them on the board like this is to bring unconscious contents, so qualities and contents that are in your unconscious mind, into consciousness. And what that means is connecting them to yourself, okay? So the two opposite qualities we have here are, smart and stupid. So when you look at yourself in your conscious mind, do you connect the quality of being stupid to yourself consciously? And do you connect the quality of being smart to yourself consciously? This is a huge idea and it's a very important one in order for you to achieve wholeness of your personality. Because whether you know it or not, whether you are conscious of it or not, you are both smart and stupid. You both know the answer and don't know. These are qualities of your mind and they exist in the quaternity. The quaternity is true, okay? Whether you like it or not, it's a fact of reality that there are these four principles that work in this manner, okay? And to kind of prove it to you, what I'll do is now reveal the kind of other sides of the quaternity. So we're going to look at the positive side of I don't know and the positive side of being stupid. and the negative side of being smart and the negative side of I know. And that's how you actually become conscious, because you see that a negative quality can be positive and a positive quality can be negative. Now you're removing the paired nature of these opposites, because it unlocks these two quadrants, and you're able to see reality more clearly. So just quickly, the way to uncover quaternities in yourself is not to go from this psychological orientation into this or this. That's essentially, it's essentially impossible to do that. It's not going to work. What you have to do is go straight into the opposite direction and integrate the shadow quality. That's the way to unlock these quadrants, because then you can see the positive side. When you can see the positive side of what you perceived before as only negative, then you can see the positive side of these two quadrants as well, and that they exist. Because otherwise you can't really see how knowing the answer makes you stupid, which is that there's something negative in something you previously perceived as positive only, and how not knowing the answer makes you smart, how something that you perceived previously was negative actually leads to something positive. Okay, so this kind of, the reason I chose this quaternity is because it's so important for unlocking knowledge, not only of the outside world, but also of yourself. It's absolutely essential to know that you're stupid and know that you don't know the answers. Otherwise, you can never find the answers. And that's what I was going to talk about in the other parts of the video, but I might as well just go into it now. You know, when you believe that you know the answer and you're smart, then what it does is it puts a ceiling on your knowledge. It puts a cap on what you can know. It's the most damaging thing ever. Somebody with this psychological orientation, where they have a positive association to knowing the answer, if you ask them a question, they're going to always give you an answer, whether or not they know, because they don't want to look stupid or be stupid. And what happens is their identity is connected to the positive quality. So when you look at their mind, they have a conscious mind and an unconscious. And the ego is them in their mind, okay? And the positive quality of knowing the answer and being smart is kind of like a mask that they put on their face. And that's why the word that we use for it is persona. So the positive quality results in the persona, or the mask that they put on for the world. Because when they're around other people, they don't want to be stupid and not know the answer. They want to know the answer and look smart. So what happens is these negative qualities are pushed into the unconscious mind, right? And they become shadow qualities, which means they're not connected to the ego consciousness or the ego personality of this individual. So if you imagine being smart as a quality, it's up here and it's in relation to this person. Let's just say their name is Jimothy. Jimothy, interesting name. If you ask Jimothy, can you please describe yourself with the words smart or stupid? Is he going to say, hey, my name is Jimothy, I'm stupid, when he meets a new person? No, he's not. He doesn't want to say that. He wants to say, hey, my name is Jimothy, I'm smart. And he's going to say that because that quality is connected to his conscious mind, right? When we meet people and you talk to people, even if you just, think about yourself, you want to talk about yourself in connection to positive qualities. You're not going to introduce yourself to a new person, hey, my name's Daniel, I'm greedy, lazy, dirty, selfish, stupid. You're not going to say those qualities when you introduce yourself to another person. Okay, and there's a good reason for not doing that, because that will probably instantly shadow project those qualities onto you, which is not helpful to you at all for the most part. But what happens is then, in the unconscious mind, is this quality of stupid. And, Jimothy is then going to unconsciously project that quality onto his environment or outside of himself onto other people, right? So that's why it's going to be very easy for you to come up with a name here. And even me, it's going to be easy for you to come up with a name here because it's an idea in your mind, right? There's a person who comes to mind who embodies the quality of being stupid and not knowing the answer. And there's a quality of, there's somebody who fits this quality too. However, this one's easy to be conscious of. It's because it's positive. It's easy to want to know it's easier to want to be this person. It's much more difficult to integrate shadow qualities which are negative or perceived as inferior. So like for example, Jimothy, for him to accept that he's stupid and bring this quality into consciousness, it's going to be much more difficult because he's going to have to see that person that he perceives as stupid and realize that that's actually him, right? That person that came to mind when you thought about somebody who's stupid and doesn't know the answer, that is you, right? And now it seems like why should I want to, or why should I care about integrating these negative qualities of my personality? Why should I do that? Why would I want to do that? Well, number one, it makes you more conscious. But number two, it goes back to the list of the things that I put here, right? The person who believes they know the answer and believes they're smart and has those qualities connected to their ego consciously, they're going to unconsciously be stupid and not know the answer. You know, I had a friend in primary school when I was 12 years old, and every single day he would come up with these fun facts and tell me these fun facts. And for months, I just never questioned any of his fun facts because I thought he was smart and he knew the answer. And then one day he told me something which was occurred to me as very far-fetched. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll just Google that fun fact. And I Googled it, and it was just complete nonsense. And he just made it up, okay? And, you know, then I Googled all the rest of his fun facts going back that I could remember, and most of them were complete nonsense. But then if you ask him a question, he'd always have an answer. And I'm guilty of this myself too, because I want to look smart. You want to look smart. You don't want to say to somebody that you don't know the answer, because you don't want to look stupid. You know, especially if it's, like I said, if you ask me a question about psychology, you know, I always think about being in a podcast or an interview and somebody asking me some difficult question. If I don't know the answer and I say I don't know, you know, it's going to be likely that people project their shadow onto me and think that I'm stupid. Well, it's partly also because it's true and I am stupid, but it's just very difficult to accept that quality in yourself, being stupid. However, when you do, it unlocks something beautiful. This quadrant here, where saying I don't know makes you smart. Because let's just go back to the example of I'm in an interview. If I say I don't know, what that means is consciously I know that information is not available to me yet. I don't know something. And what that means is I can go find the answer. I can then go and find out what I don't know. When I say I know, it makes me stupid. That's where this quadrant comes in. Because if I say I know, I'm putting a limit on what I can know. I can't know anything past what I know. Think about it like this. If you know everything, there's nothing else to know. There's nothing else to know. So you're not going to look for something else. You know, there's going to be things on the other side of this wall. There's going to be objects there. But if you believe you know everything, you're not even going to look. It's like there being a fence, and on the other side of the fence is a pot of gold. But when you see the fence, you just say, oh, there's nothing on the other side. I know there's nothing on the other side. So you're not going to look. And this is where, you know, once you unlock the quaternity, you unlock a whole world of possibilities that weren't there before. And, you know, it's just so frustrating to... it's so frustrating to see people limit themselves so much. And even me, I've been limiting myself so much because of this hubris of wanting to be smart and wanting everybody to think that I know all the answers. And it's just so damaging because you're just missing out on the beautiful quadrant here where you don't know the answer and you can go and find it and become more intelligent, more smart, more conscious, right? And it's not just in terms of intelligence or knowing facts and increasing knowledge. It's about conscious expansion. It's about, you're not going to be able to unlock more qualities of your personality and really get to know who you are and discover your own personal destiny through the process of uncovering all these unconscious contents, right? Every time you bring an unconscious content into consciousness, what's happening is that you're kind of removing the negative and positive associations to those qualities, right? Stupid no longer becomes only this negative quality. It becomes something where growth and renewal and life can spring from, not only death and destruction. And the opposite becomes true of being smart. You can see how smart is negative and destructive, right? And what it does is it increases the size of your conscious mind. So if your mind was this, then it becomes this. Because this quality in the unconscious has been brought into consciousness and increases the size of your conscious mind. And it basically makes it more stable. Because now when you're in the world and you come across somebody who's, fits this orientation where they have this massive persona of being smart and they know the answer, you just instantly know that they're going to be unconsciously stupid, and that they're also likely to shadow project the quality of being stupid onto you or onto other people. And it just immediately lays traps for them and causes problems. And being unconscious always means that you're going to, stumble on issues or miss out on opportunities. If you don't look over the fence, you may miss out on something wonderful and beautiful on the other side of the fence. And that may not be riches or a beautiful woman or a handsome husband or some physical thing. It's often also something within you, something wonderful in your own mind. The reason this really resonates with me was I was reading Eric Neumann's book, Depth Psychology and a New Ethic, and it just slammed me across the head at one point when I was reading that I'm an idiot and that I just have no understanding of what I'm reading. I was about halfway through the book and he was just talking about integrating negative qualities of the personality and basically integrating the shadow and how important it is for wholeness. And I just realized that so much of the first half of the book that I read, I just had no idea what he was talking about. And which because at the same point I realized that I'm an idiot and I'm so stupid. And I wasn't conscious of those qualities before, because growing up, it was always bad to be the idiot. It was always bad to not know the answer. So there was so much negative association to those qualities. However, it just hit me so hard because I recognized, okay, now that I know that I didn't understand what I read, I can go back and read it again 10 times until I understand it. Or I can go and try and apply what I've learned and maybe even try and teach it to figure it out more and differentiate it more, right? I can finally unlock actually being smart because I don't know, because I am an idiot, because I am stupid, right? It's the positive side of these negative qualities. It's the positive side of unlocking and integrating your own evil, right? So yeah, it's just, it's very frustrating when I'm talking to people and I can, I can see this quaternity in them, because it means it's just so difficult to talk to them, right? They can't accept that they don't know, which means they're not going to be able to accept or discover the information on the other side of the belief that they do know everything. It's just, if I go into the field of being an electrician and I think to myself that I know everything already, see how dangerous is that? How it's so clear there. If I start going into some circuitry and some, a power plant, thinking that I know the answer and I know how everything works, I'm going to get electrocuted and die. I'm going to have a big problem. Now, because death isn't the result of this quaternity, normally it's embarrassment because, it's like in the case of my friend. He told me a fun fact. Then I come up to him and show him the Google search that it's wrong. He's going to be embarrassed because he realizes that he's stupid, right? But if you already consciously know that you're stupid, you would probably you wouldn't run into that mistake, because you would just say, if I asked him for a fun fact, he would just say, I don't know. It's already in the conscious mind. So this is the quaternity of I know and I don't know. And I hope this video resonates with you and helped you. I'm trying to explain stuff better in my videos as I learn to be better on camera and better at teaching. So hopefully this makes sense. If you have any questions or ideas, or want me to go into this even further in a longer video, or maybe explore the other ideas that I mentioned about hubris and the ceiling of knowledge, just leave a comment below, and I'll try and reply to those comments as much as possible. But yeah, if you like this video, just click the subscribe button. I'll be putting out new videos every single day. And also, if you like this type of quaternity video, there's literally infinite quaternities that I can go through and explore with you on the whiteboard. And going through the quaternities means that you're literally expanding your conscious mind if you're able to integrate these negative qualities, which I'm talking about. And so basically any quaternity that I've personally integrated, I can teach you how to integrate. And even as I am right now, there's definitely still quaternities that I haven't uncovered and explored and unlocked in my own mind. So it's exciting. Every day I can explore and learn more about myself. So that's it for the video. If you are interested in learning more about your mind's 4 functions, so it's sensation, intuition, feeling, and thinking, and how to use them, I've put together a course called the 7-Day Decision Maker. The link for it is in the bio and the pinned comments, so you can check that out if you're interested. And that's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.